Welcome to Two Girls Talk Transits with our hosts.
Hi, I'm Maddie delrae. I'm a professional practicing astrologer with a focus more on Hellenistic traditional astrology and with an intense love and desire for predictive transiting astrology.
And I'm Kaleigh Smith. I'm a healing coach and art therapy grad student with a slight obsession with reading the stars. I combine astrology, spirituality, and traditional psychology to help people live with intention. Without further ado, we welcome you to Two Girls Talk Transits, where we talk about all the upcoming astrological transits and what you can do to keep yourself sane and absolutely aligned.
Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from June 30th to July 6th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaleigh.
And we can begin. So, right off the bat, our first astrology of this week happens on July 2nd. And this is where we get a whole kind of slew of changes. First off, is what we talked about a little bit before, but Neptune actually finally stations retrograde on July 2nd. Will be retrograde for like 6 or 5 months or so. So, a good chunk of our time.
Yeah, this'll be a change of pace.
Yeah, and we have touched into, Neptune about to come across to that border into Aries, but it haven't quite yet. And now it going retrograde is like there's still this unfinished work that we're wrapping up in Pisces,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Saturn there, and what deeper spiritual reviews that we need to be having in our life.
Yeah, because if Neptune represents like spirituality and it also represents like our dreams and desires when it goes retrograde, I feel like we could have like a review of these Neptunian themes. So we might feel called to, review our what relationship do we have to spirituality and what relationship do we have to, what we're calling in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And two, just because we've had those planets in the prior 2 weeks, really making that square to Neptune, it was a while back, but I feel like that lingers a bit where they're now starting to move into a trine aspect as Neptune goes retrograde. So if there has been things in your life that have been more confusing and unclear and ungrounded, this is a good chance for that review and to maybe give you a little bit more connection to that ability to be a little bit uncertain at this point in your life.
Yeah, maybe we don't really have an option but to kind of welcome that uncertainty in. Yeah, because I feel like Neptune, direct is already very uncertain, but retrograde I could feel like could bump up the uncertainty even more, which is why we feel called to dive into this like spiritual realm because we want some kind of answers. Like we're trying to like move through and have faith in something that we can't see or like find that bigger purpose to the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And it just even more so like today is because Mercury on the same day that or Neptune is stationing retrograde, Mercury is going to make that trine to Neptune. And
Yeah.
Mercury is in Cancer. So it's like delivering these little messages about like, hey, you need to go back and like backtrack. But the thing about Neptune retrograde is like you just kind of left a really foggy forest and now you have to turn around and go back into it. You can't even see the path that you originally took. So there's a lot more guesswork in this. But I just feel like with the trine, like intuitively, you know that this is something that needs to be done. Like you have these feelings that need to be worked through, or you need to gain greater clarity in this area of your life through this trust process.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like Mercury in Cancer here could be like activating like thoughts, like emotional thoughts surrounding this too. So we could be getting like emotional messages, intuitive messages about, yeah, like working through these themes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Mm.
it's softer, but it will be really quick, and it's kind of a quick aspect this
Mm-hmm.
day. So you'll feel that more in the morning because in the evening, then Mercury will just move right into Leo because remember the Neptune's at 29 Pisces. So now Mercury is entering into Leo, and this gives us a little bit more of warmth and fire into our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, we just have a lot going on in those feminine yin signs right now.
Yeah, I feel like this will be a good shift of energy because I feel like a lot of us with this like previous Cancer energy might be a little bit tired of tending to the emotional space. So I feel like Mercury, yeah, shifting into this more fiery yang energy, like you mentioned, could just be like a nice surge of like there we go. Like I've kind of like come up out of this like these emotional depths a little bit and I can like see some fun, I think even like a little bit of spark of joy and yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, fire is like our passion and it's our energetic drive. And like without that, like in Cancer, you're just kind of tending to your feelings. Like, I am hungry, I need to eat. Now I'm thirsty. Now I want a nap. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of nurturing, you're taking care of things, but you're not actually living, you know? Like that fire gives us a reason to be so up in arms about things or to be so driven and passionate. And so this gives us a kind of a refresher of that. Like, okay, you now remember that you have, the progression of the zodiac signs, right? In Cancer, you remember to take care of yourself. You remember to take care of your body and your nurturing because that fuels your work. And then in Leo, you get back into having fun with it, having more passion with it, and being more creative with this expression.
Yeah, because Leo also does like to nurture, but it's more so like a instead of like a sense of like I'm nurturing myself for my like basic needs, it's more like I'm nurturing myself because I'm passionate about these things and like it lights me up and brings me like this big sense of pleasure.
Yeah, it's just a sense of, they're ruled by both different, the moon and the both luminaries, the moon and the sun, right? So the moon is about nurturing the body, and Hellenistic astrology is the fortuna, it's the fortune of the body health, right? So of course Cancer is more worried about that. But the sun is the spirit, it's the mind. So it's the like intellectual nurturing, the kind of stimulation of creativity and the more higher level things once you get past of just taking care of like basic needs.
Oh yeah. And like sun also representing ego, it can be like like ego fulfillment too, like
Yeah. What do you want to do?
you, mm-mm. Yeah, like feeding those things that make us feel confident even instead of like, yeah, just satisfied baseline. Yeah.
Exactly. So it gives us a little more excitement, which we'll come back to. Venus too on this day, because there's just a lot going on here on July 2nd. Venus in Cancer will also make a trine to Saturn in Pisces. This is a cool down of like relationships, but it's usually a helpful sort of commitment kind of made or an ability to commit to some things that you do desire. As like, what do you want to continue to bring into your life, and like, what structures do you want to make sure that that's an actual process and not just a whim?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, Venus here could have us with making this trine to Saturn could have us like setting those structural components. Uh, yeah, with it could be with interpersonal relationships and it also can be with desires. So, yeah, maybe whatever relationships that you're having, that you're nurturing, you decide to commit to them further. Yeah. Or I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's just like, a realization that you're in this for the long haul, right? Like, I do want to create this. I want to have this beautiful artwork in my home, but to do that, it's going to take me another year. We have at least another year of Saturn and Pisces. So it's like kind of acknowledging the time commitments that it takes to build something beautiful or long lasting and just being more appreciative of that time.
Yeah, I could totally like think about this, how this might like relate in my own life. Like there's a lot of things like Venetian things that I've been wanting to like upgrade in. So like I
Mhm.
want to get a new car and I want to update my wardrobe. And these are all like financial, investments in a way that are going to take time to create this like beautiful whatever picture that I have in my mind. So
Right.
yeah, I feel like that kind of like really speaks to this like you know, this trine with Venus and Saturn, it could be like a good example of how you might experience this energy.
Yeah, all the good things that you want are gonna take time, and
Mm,
that's just what Venus trine Saturn is gonna give you. Like,
mm-mm.
you want this? Are you in it for long haul, or are you gonna fizzle out? And then, if so, like, get out.
Bye-bye.
So you can leave now.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I do think it will be that intense. I do think it will be that literal just because on the 3rd of July is when Mercury, fresh in Leo, will come opposite Pluto in Aquarius, right? And like whatever like commitments you're making through that Venus and Saturn, like you have to give some sort of verbal agreement, some sort of verbal acknowledgement that you are making this commitment, right? And then it's like Mercury is opposite Saturn, so it's like binding you to this. Like, this is like life or death in some ways. Like, this is a true like transformation that you're going to be partaking in now. I don't know, but there's
Yeah.
intensity there.
Yeah, it could even be so like, I think we've talked about this before, but Venus can, I feel like sometimes activate those feelings of like instant gratification. Like we want things to instantly be the way that we see them in our mind. And Mercury opposite Pluto here could bring up those feelings of like, like, why can't I instantly pop my desires into reality? And then we're facing fears, or not even fears, but we're facing that like inner dialogue that comes along with it. Like, this maybe it's like limiting beliefs that we have, or maybe it's the emotions we have about the limiting beliefs that we have, or it could just bring up all this like kind of subconscious like back of the mind stuff that's going on that's in relation to these desires that we have.
Yeah, exactly. It's what it will, it's an intensification of this sort of shift of okay, things were slow for a bit, right? Like last week things were slow. Now there's these aspects where we're starting to get more flow and moving into what we want to create. And then it is like instant like why is this not moving at the same pace it was this spring? Why
Hmm.
am I not feeling the same sort of progress, or there's probably new issues that you have to work through just because like an opposite Pluto can just be like you were ignoring all of these signs and here you go, this is the like revealed message that you've been denying as truth or something, can totally
Hmm.
come to light and that be the new thing that you start to work through this summer as well.
Yeah, like working through those patterns or that new information that you have. Yeah, and I feel like that brings us like really nicely into our next point, because things were moving a little bit faster in the spring because we had Mars and Aries also, and that's like faster moving, our drive, our, expressive energy. So now we have Mars still in Taurus, it's like we're not able to move through those things as fast as we want to. And then we have right here Mars and Taurus sextiling Saturn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you make this like kind of spiritual, commitment, desire, commitment of I do want these things. I recognize it's going to take some time. You run into some frustrations with that awareness, or the ways that you do need to slow down and step back, or the ways that this kind of has power on you. And then from that fine tuning on July 5th, when Mars does make that sextile to Saturn, you actually align your actions to the energy that is present, which is slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you realize that it's going to be some like slower, dedicated effort, but you're willing to like take those steps to go in that direction. Yeah. Hopefully
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
too like I know, like, the fire sign, air sign energies out there are like, "Come on now." Oh, goodness.
So instantaneous and everything all the time. Yeah, yeah. It's
Mhm.
gonna but we all need to learn how to slow down, and not all of us are gonna be pure air and fire in our chart. So there are elements of us that can tap into what it means to just be thorough and methodical. Like that's what I think Mars and Taurus really is. It's just someone who has took the time to plot out every corner of the room and is very thorough, very clear, and has a system in place. And no, we cannot deviate from that system. The only way forward is to hit X, Y, and Z in order. And that's not how faster energies move, but there is a beauty to working that way.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because, astrology is, like, a good way to, like, bring out, like, as you mentioned, everybody has different energies within them. So astrology is a good way as the planets go in transit to bring out these different energies that we have within us. So, at each new transit, we're realizing a part of ourselves that maybe we haven't realized before. We're working on developing a part of ourselves that, just needs some extra care. Even if we just like stood here in time, like if I sat in this room for the next 10 years, I still have these like planetary energies acting on me. So even if nothing happens in my external world, I'm still going to be going through like these different internal, things throughout that time just because of how the planets move. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so we all need a reminder to slow down and go steady and go slow, just as like we need a reminder to be excited about life and to be motivated and to create. So
Yeah.
the purpose and place for everyone,
Yeah.
right?
So true.
So we'll wrap up this week with a new moon in Cancer. I will be sharing that on the video here. So it's at 14 degrees of Cancer, both the sun and the moon. Venus is still in Cancer at 22 degrees, a little bit further away. But, other than that, Mercury's in Leo, Jupiter's still in Gemini, Mars is in Taurus, and a loose sextile to
Mhm.
that new moon. And Saturn is still in Pisces with Neptune. So it's kind of a softer new moon. It is in between eclipses, so we are at sort of this halfway point of eclipse seasons. But I just thought it was just like there's not a whole lot going on with this lunation, which I think is just speaks to the current astrology as well, right? Like there isn't a whole lot going on comparatively of where we've come from, but this
Mhm.
is giving us space to nurture, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, yeah, this new moon in Cancer, I feel like can like maybe spark some like newer emotions, with this like future focus that we have here. Like how do we want to feel in the future? Like we can set some intentions about how we would like to nurture ourselves over the next lunar cycle.
Yeah, and it's, with Venus, it is about the sweetness and the ease and the softer elements. And you can see like this new moon right in the middle of Cancer season. I also just speaks long term to that Cancer Capricorn axis in your chart, right? Like, what are you giving up in the Capricorn area of your chart that you are wanting to manifest or spend more time cultivating and nurturing in the Cancer aspect? Because these accesses, they always work in polarities when we talk about houses. So there is some sort of long-term connection with that first full moon that we had in Capricorn on the 21st, and the next one that we'll have in July 21st as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that you pointed out the axes here because I feel like the Capricorn part of my chart has been very loud lately.
Mm.
And
Oh, yeah.
I think it's happening because there is like as we are simultaneously feeling all this energy happening on the Cancer side of the spectrum, there is like this releasing of aspects on the Capricorn side, or maybe this like we're just kind of like trying to understand, I think, how to balance the scales. Like, how do we walk the rope between the two spaces?
Yeah, it is. It is just because, Saturn is not in Capricorn or Aquarius, not in a rule sign, but Saturn is having these trine aspects to the planet. So it is an evaluation of Saturnian matters in your life and where you have been systematically kind of consistent and maybe too stale or stable and what kind of rebirth needs to happen, being Cancer, re-nurturing of the soul, or kind of reconfiguration of what you love and what you desire. Where can you kind of give and take here a little bit more and make sure that this kind of balances out when perhaps it hasn't been.
Yeah, I feel like that's, yeah, a beautiful like note to leave on. Like, how can we, yeah, re-nurture the soul? I feel like, yeah, that's really prevalent for me right now. So I feel like it could also be, yeah, for a lot of people. And I feel like
Yeah.
Maddie too, you're experiencing quite a bit of that.
Yeah, Cancer is my 12th house, Capricorn is my sixth, and I'm having a lot of issues with my current work life and how I don't want to give more energy to it and where I want to cultivate more time in that 12th house section. And yeah, it is just like, granted, I try to be impartial here, but it's very easy. It's very useful. You're going to be an astrologer by drawing on your experience of events. But I also give monthly readings, and I just feel like the theme has been wherever this access is, it's just that Capricorn. It's just been become a little inflated. It's became a little bit too much. It's decided it knows too much.
Yeah.
And it needs to be brought down a peg or two. And we're doing that through these full moons and rebalancing. And I see it, not just in my own life, but I think everywhere. I think even collectively as like systematic, like Capricorn ruling a lot of the stock markets and the systematic things. Like there's a huge talk about deflation lowering or, like coming out of this and what does this mean for the election? And people are just like, we just want to enjoy life. Like,
I know, I know. There's like especially it's so loud in the US, I feel, but
yeah,
yeah, I think people are just so tired of like the grind.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And
get it.
so it is this beautiful long-term unfolding that happens with these two full moons and then Pluto coming back in September is just to take that barren wasteland and reestablish it, renew it, and kind of confine it under new terms. But that's a later discussion.
Yeah.
For this new moon, just focus on the things that you truly want to nurture and bring forth and recognize what you may also be asked to let go of to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, new moons are good for welcoming in new things. Um, so yeah, just like whether or not you resonate with manifestation or not, I'm like on the edge of it at this point. I'm not sure how much I'm vibing with that, but just like having like some general like loose goals that you'd like to, tend to, and it doesn't have to be like those Capricorn goals, like,
No.
make,
Being like, I want to eat more food like
yeah,
this, or I want to like sit on the beach once a week. Like, I don't know, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, it can be like those soul nurturing things. Like I saw Maddie on her Instagram story like swimming in the ocean the other day, and the
Yeah.
the waves looked really high and scary, and I would not be doing that, but anyways, um but it could be something like that. Like let me go swim in the ocean once a week and like just like feel what it feels like to be like a part of this Mother Earth, to be like, yeah, just experience maybe even being like mothered by the planet, because Capricorn, or not Capricorn, Cancer represents the mother. So it could just, yeah, be kind of themes related to that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And overall, like, if you don't feel like, you feel like there isn't anything you want to do, like, then just good. Then don't do that. Don't do anything and just kind of appreciate that existence that you have, you know?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
And yeah, so I think this wraps up this week. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I think that's all for now.
Great. All right. So I was going to talk about this later, but I kind of want to throw it in.
Hmm.
Um, I am planning, Kaleigh doesn't know this yet,
Okay.
but I am planning to do like a talk in July on like the houses to kind of give people, if you are kind of familiar with your chart, but you want to understand house meanings more, what does it mean if I have a planet here? What does it mean when I don't have any planets in any houses? Because that's like a big question all the time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna do that sometime in July. So you'll follow us on Two Girls Talk Transits on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, as well as follow me on Instagram at maddie.delrae or my website, maddiedelrae.com. And we'll have more information about that coming up.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like that could answer a lot of questions for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. And you can find me heal.on earth on Instagram. And yeah, I think that's it. You mentioned Maddie Del Rey.
Yep. I
Okay.
did. Great. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.